Russia celebrated a grid blackout. 2 hours later, its most prized air defenses were burning through missiles at phantom targets. The trigger? A potato truck and 47 cheap Calibri drones. This isn't about explosions. It's about forcing layered defenses to fight ghosts, then slipping 60 Leudi drones under 500 feet to hit fuel depots and a pipeline hub. Watch how a $2 million counterstrike bent Moscow's billion-dollar shield into a panic, one spoofed radar return at a time, and why the final impacts used speed, not warheads, to light Sheremetyevo's fuel on fire. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How does a beat-up farm truck end up waking a capital's sirens? By turning cost into a weapon. Moscow had just gloated over a 12-hour blackout in Kiev. 2 hours later, those same bragging channels heard their own alerts. A small Ukrainian unit had slipped across the border days before, trading uniforms for gloves and work jackets, blending into roadside traffic and farm crews. Their hub sat 15 miles from Moscow, a decommissioned potato truck parked near a service road, its bed cut open to reveal rails, batteries, and a fold-out antenna rig hidden under stained tarps and spare tires. They waited for the celebration to crest, then cracked the lid. 47 Calibri FPV drones rose like gnats, slow at first, then steady, climbing just enough to be seen by the outer ring. S-400 radars spiked alive. Firing doctrine said engage early with long sticks, so crews did exactly that, lighting off 40 N-6 interceptors meant for bombers and cruise missiles. Each shot chased a target worth less than a weekend's salary. The cost curve flipped in seconds. 20 drones died in the first minute. The math still favored the attackers. The surviving operators toggled a new mode. The little airframes thickened their radar skin, puffing out a bigger profile, trading stealth for confusion. To a screen, they stopped looking like FPVs and started looking like things commanders care about. Low-flying cruise missiles, a helicopter on a terrain mask, a forward observer UAV queuing a strike. Panzer crews saw crowded scopes and short timelines. They snapped to ready. Dozens of 9M311s leapt off rails, and 30mm cannons started raking empty air between returns. Panic fire is a harsh phrase. Compressed decision cycles are kinder. Either way, missiles left their tubes faster than the threat justified. Here's why the trick works. Modern air defense lives on fused pictures. Radar from one site, passive sensors from another, maybe infrared traces and ADS-B plots stitched into a single truth. That truth is only as good as the inputs. Spoofed radar cross-sections, tweaked signal timings, and deliberate velocity jitter feed. The fusion engine a diet of near-plausible lies. A node reports, cruise missile at 80 meters. Another confirms, rotor return. The network concludes multiple axes. Doctrine says protect the city, not hoard interceptors. So the city gets protection, and the magazine drains. In under 2 minutes, Moscow logged a scoreboard full of kills. Screens flashed green. Crews radioed success. But the ledger cut the other way. Ready-to-fire stocks dipped. Reload workflows clogged. Replacement missiles would need to creep from depots on schedules that do not move at the speed of alerts. You can win a minute and lose an hour. One battery commander stared into a sky that looked crowded but held almost nothing solid. He chased a ghost along a bearing that kept shifting, took a shot, saw a splash on his screen, and felt the brief surge of target destroyed. Then the log scrolled another decoy. The next track split into 2 returns and dragged his fire control loop sideways. His crew kept the rhythm: acquire, lock, fire, confirm, while the real threats stayed elsewhere. That was the point. Not to blow holes in buildings, but to poke holes in budgets, magazines, and time. Force the defender to spend big, decide fast, and do it again after the first reload. A broken-down potato truck turned into a weapon by pairing cover with prepositioned teams and drones that could wear different digital masks. Billion-dollar systems chased $200 targets because the signatures told them to. And while Moscow congratulated itself for swatting the swarm, another group moved where those same screens stayed quiet. What slips in when defenses fight ghosts? The answer flies slow, quiet, and below 500 feet. While crews bragged about the first wave, the real move crept in under the wires. As Panzers kept spending 9,311 seconds on swollen blips and phantom tracks, 60 Leudi drones slid along pipeline corridors and power easements. Metal towers and buried lines shaped the route. The swarm hugged right-of-ways that ran straight toward the targets. The pace stayed low. Not fast jet fast, not even helicopter fast. Just steady enough that high-end search modes tuned for quick movers kept missing them at the edge of clutter. Then the Kremlin threw a switch. Kasuka 4 came on and blasted the spectrum. The brute force jam rolled out like a siren across every control link video turned to snow. Commands lagged until they stopped landing. 8 out of 10 drones lost the pilot's hand. The system also spoofed, pushing false cues into any navigation that would listen. This was the wall. The feed died. The operator went blind and deaf in seconds. The swarm did not fold. It reshaped. Units that still heard each other closed ranks and rebuilt the network. Autonomy took the stick. Preloaded waypoints snapped into priority. Shared sensor packets moved across the short links that still lived in the noise. Drones traded bearings and drift rates the way bikers draft a line. If one lost the thread, 2 neighbors fed it the angle and speed it needed to stay in the lane. No heroics, just a rule set that favors survival over flair. Their path used what the ground already offered. Pipelines trace the easiest terrain. Power lines do the same. Both create long, predictable corridors with repeating metal. That metal throws back radar in ways defenders expect to see from infrastructure, not intruders. The low-speed ingress stayed inside the clutter so the big arrays looked past it for faster problems. A lattice of pylons, junction boxes, and maintenance roads kept the swarm on track without GPS or a pilot's eye. Kasuka 4 jammed the operators. It did not jam physics. The inertial cores kept counting turns. The visual algorithms matched poles, shadows, and tower spacing well enough to stay honest. A digital nervous system carried those cues across the mesh. Frames cross-checked time and distance. They trimmed drift. They held altitude under transmission lines where the air is dirty and the radar is lazier. Close to the city, guns woke up. Tracers stitched gaps between pylons. 30mm shells chased heat spots at bad angles. 6 drones made it through the EW wall intact, cut left off the corridor and broke toward 2 fuel nodes that mattered more than headlines. One group vectored on Sheremetyevo's fuel farms. The other slipped toward the Zelenograd transneft hub, where valves and manifolds sit tight in fenced yards. Last-second dodges came from short onboard routines. No streaming pilot, no hand on a joystick. Just a script that says, if muzzle flash at this bearing, change lane. There were no heavy warheads waiting. The airframes were the warheads. Weight forward, motors screaming, airspeed up, nose down. Kinetic strikes rip seams, throw shards, and spray fuel metal on metal gives you sparks and heat. Fuel mist takes care of the rest. A small frame can open a tank or a line, feed air into the mix, and set off a fire that outgrows the size of the hit by orders of magnitude. How did the team that staged it all stay unseen? They built their cover into the route. Logistics wore farm work. Launch sites hugged industrial right-of-ways that looked normal to anyone driving past timing did the rest. They moved under the din of decoy kills and the RF haze of Kasuka 4. The strike landed cheap. Airports slowed. Pipeline operations staggered. And the bill for defending the city ran hotter than the fires those 6 drones left behind. Raw power didn't fail. It was redirected by timing and deception. Ukraine waited, then used intelligence to turn a farm truck and cheap drones into leverage that drained magazines, slowed airports, and hit fuel revenue without matching force for force. That's cost imposition at work. Low spend, high burn on the other side, and a defense ledger that bleeds during the celebration. If innovation can bend billion-dollar shields, what needs to change first? Doctrine, sensors, or how we price risk? Comment with the one fix you would fund. Next time, we'll test mesh autonomy against space-based sensors and airborne laser links, where latency and beam control become the fight.